Hello, my name is Aleksandra Vasileva. I'm a student of St. Petersburg State University of Film and Television, and you're watching Student Questions. Do you remember your first steps in career?
Depends how do you find career.
Consumer technologies.
Consumer technologies. My first steps. Well, I guess because consumer technologies, people usually see as a product that they can buy off the shelf. They forget that all the little things inside, that's all consumer technology. And so my first steps were at the university when I actually, as a student, worked on the things that enable consumer technologies, like medical studies for the consumer devices. I don't really remember that I was really afraid of anything, like really afraid. Sometimes I had a stage fright maybe when I had exams. So probably the biggest fright is usually fear of failure. But I was brought up in a family where they actually never let us be afraid of a failure. They always taught us that when something ends, there is a new beginning. So when you make mistakes, there is always opportunity to correct and to learn from those mistakes. I didn't really afraid of anything for a long time, or it was maybe just for a split of a second when you're falling, and from that split of a second you're thinking like, oh my God, how I'm going to fall, and then you are on the ground and then you see, oh, nothing really happened. You just get up and clean your clothes and move on.
Do you have some difficulties?
When you interact with people and when you work or whatever you do, there is always some difficulties that you have to overcome. Otherwise, I think it would be boring if there is no difficulties or obstacles, or we wouldn't be able to improve ourselves. So yes, sometimes I do have some difficulties, but it's always I'm always trying to make things better, or to try to understand where the difficulties come from and then to actually deal with them.
What profession skills could be very important to work here?
I think that for everything you have to be a little bit creative, at least like a grain of salt creative, if not more. Creativity is really important. You mentioned difficulties. So creativity is really important to solve difficulties, for example. You won't be able to find solutions to the problems because you would be thinking really rigidly, and it's really hard when you're rigid to find a way out or solutions. So I would put on the first place creativity.
And how could be useful the results of this conference in the future for people?
Well, hopefully some of the results that we will see in the papers presenting here are future Apple iPhone or future autonomous vehicle. Even if those results may not look like now, maybe they will inspire someone with something that they suggested in the paper to find a solution to problems at that moment.
So what can you say to students which only starting to study here and want to work?
Not to be afraid, to try things, not to be afraid to present their ideas, not to be afraid to dare things, to respect things, because sometimes we become too brave when we are not afraid, and then we forget to respect things, and that's where the trouble comes. So, and to be creative. to nurture that creativity inside. Someone call it like inner child. So in some areas it's an inner child. In our area we can call it creativity.
Mhm.